Taco Palenque fans, we have something special for you. Try the Casero Taco now for only $2.75 Monday through Thursday. Flavor packed with premium sirloin rice and refried beans. Only at Taco Palenque. At participating locations for limited time, not valid for delivery. Other restrictions may apply.
From a top-secret network of highly secure locations across South Texas, this is the Spurs Insider, brought to you by Taco Palenque. I am your host, Mike Finger, joined by Express News Spurs beat writers Jeff McDonald and Tom Orsborn, and Express News sports editor Nick Talbot. We have another week of the same song, the same dance, maybe some new reactions to it. We will start with Jeff McDonald reacting to yet another week of Spurs coming up short. What is there to say, Jeff? Where do we start here?
You said the same dance, but it's a bad dance. It's like the Elaine dance on Seinfeld.
Yeah,
keep doing it over and over and over.
There's different variations on the theme. You either blow a 20-point lead or dig yourself into a 20-point hole and end up lamenting what might have been at the end of the night every time.
But the results are the same, right? You can correct me if this is factually wrong, but I think the last thing the Spurs actually won was the draft lottery. Is that correct?
Well, you skipped the 3 games this year that they won, and we should note again on this podcast that one beat writer on this panel has yet to cover a Victor Wembanyama regular season victory. Tom Orsborn has been around for 3.
Yeah, but that guy couldn't even save him against Memphis. So
that's true. That's true.
Spurs won the tournament, the Valley of the Sun tournament.
Valley of the Sun tournament in Phoenix. That was a heck of a week. It seems like years ago. It was just a couple of weeks ago. Is this going to get better, Tom?
Yeah, sure. I'm like a very optimistic, humorous Keldon Johnson last night. You know, it will get better. I like how Keldon treated that with humor. There's wins on the horizon. Of course, that Memphis game is the one that hurts. That was in their hand and they blew it. They've blown so many, but that one seemed like they definitely were going to get it. But yeah, Pop treated it with humor before the game too. Fans don't like to hear that, but it's a good way to get through adversity. And,
yeah, they're just yucking it up and losing every game.
Yeah.
That's got to make the listeners of this podcast feel so much better that that the coach and the players are feeling good during this.
And you say there's victories on the horizon, but where? Where?
It's the NBA. Someone will slip up. Yeah, there'll be an NBA schedule type win somewhere in there.
Well, yeah. Well, I suppose. I mean, yeah, they're not going to lose all their games the rest of the time, but it's just hard to see one.
Can you guarantee that?
Yes, I can. They're going to win more than 3 games this year. That's a lock. Stone cold McDonald lock. The Spurs will win more than 3 games. They played Detroit at home the last game of the regular season, so they'll get that one, I think.
So the minimum 4-78.
The win again would bring themselves back.
That would help. That would definitely help
a lot.
But they've lost a lot of games with them too. So
they've lost a lot of games with them, and that.
But they haven't won without them, so that's a good point.
That Memphis game that Vassell sat out, Memphis was missing approximately 19 players, so the Spurs didn't win we could have had this guy sweepstakes there. They're going against teams that are missing people too. It's just a rough time, and I guess we could they
might have a chance Wednesday in the rematch with the Clippers because James Harden's going to be left to his own devices here for a couple of days. He may not show up on Wednesday in the best of shape.
Well, James Harden, notorious enjoyer of life, enjoyer of nightlife. If he's got to spend three nights in one city, isn't San Antonio one of the places where you think he could get up to the least amount of trouble to his own devices?
I mean, sure, it's lower on the list than, let's say, Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
but or Houston, but it's probably higher than like an Oklahoma City or a Salt Lake City or a Sacramento.
That's probably
Portland.
That's an interesting
Or Detroit.
subject of. Well, I think he'd get into more. I think he'd find more stuff to do in Detroit. Maybe not.
Detroit, maybe he could fill up.
Where's he going after midnight in San Antonio?
You know where he's going to go? He's going to go to
Taco Palenque closes at 11 in a lot of places. Sometimes I think there might be some locations open until midnight. But after Taco Palenque
he'll go to Taco Palenque. You know, like the pregame, and then he'll have his night out. And he's going to find the nearest. That they're everywhere in San Antonio. The nearest all-night churros place.
Yes.
I mean, they're everywhere.
Here we go.
You cannot swing a dead squirrel without hitting a all-night churros place. For the
listeners, this was a subject of discussion before the first Clippers game on Monday night at the
This is what happens when a team has lost 10 in a row. You have these kind of discussions.
And we're going to talk about basketball on this podcast eventually.
But we have a little extra time today. There's no practice, so we can go a little long.
That's true. So I don't even know where to start. Everyone knows it involved a player for the Spurs who I'm not sure we've mentioned yet on this podcast. It might be the longest we've gone in months without mentioning the name of the young man, Victor Wembanyama, who, for some listeners who aren't aware, is a basketball player for the local Cagers. He's tall, a teenager. When he won one of those games in the Tournament of the Valley of the Sun that Tom and I covered in Phoenix, that game was broadcast on TNT. It's a cable network. For the listeners who don't know what cable is, it's the way people used to watch things before YouTube. And this game was on TNT. A broadcaster by the name of Charles Barkley, who, for the listeners who aren't aware, was a commercial TV star back in the 90s and 80s. Charles Barkley, in his interview with Victor Wembanyama, asked him about churros. And this is a long-running joke by Charles Barkley about the fairer sex in San Antonio enjoys churros. And my point last night and by the way, I'm not endorsing that joke at all. In fact, my point last night was there is nothing inherently San Antonian about churros. The average San Antonio resident, lifelong San Antonian, they don't eat churros. It's not a San Antonio thing. Sure, churros are available here, but there's nothing that makes churros a bigger part of San Antonio culture than any other city in America, really. Like, certainly not more than Phoenix or Los Angeles or San Diego or what have you, El Paso, Miami. Like, you don't go around San Antonio and see churros. Like, you see enchiladas and tacos and, sopapillas was mentioned last night. Like, you see more sopapillas in Mexican restaurants than you see churros. I posit that Charles Barkley covered with TNT, one of those Western Conference Finals back in the day, and in the media press room at Frost Bank Center, they often serve churros with the media meal. And he equates churros with San Antonio because of that. But I really think that San Antonio is not a churro city. And Jeff and Tom were sort of debating this with me last night. I will open it up to discussion. But I do not think that I don't think the average San Antonian thinks of churros as part of their regular diet.
Churros are the gentrified dessert of most locations now. They're just kind of one of those things that you put with ice cream, and there's lots of those little pop-up things. But I think you're right. I don't think it's like a San Antonio thing. I think you go to Austin and you find the same amount of churro / ice cream places, or Houston.
My only
it's one of
point
those in vogue things, but it's not like inherently San Antonio.
Right.
My only point was that I'm skeptical of the hypothesis that Charles Barkley had one churro in the media room. Like, they don't have them all the time. And that's the only place that's the only place that he's ever heard of a churro. There's churros everywhere. I Googled churros near me. not for the first time. And they were everywhere last night around that place, like everywhere. So
I still think that is where Charles got the idea that San Antonio equals churros. Because I don't think that he's going out on the Riverwalk when he's making his trips.
Why not
with the Phoenix Suns or the Philadelphia 76ers? I don't think he was out there having churros, in restaurants. I think the only reason that he equates churros with San Antonio,
it's
street food.
You're walking down the Riverwalk,
it's state fair food.
Whether you're Charles Barkley or you're James Harden after your big night out, and a churro sounds good, and there's a guy with one settling from a cart.
Where are these carts? I will plead ignorance. I will plead ignorance to the fact that I don't hang out on the Riverwalk like a lot of
New Braunfels, bro.
Like a lot of San Antonians.
Talk to me about German food. You live in New Braunfels.
A lot of San Antonians that you don't go to the Riverwalk as part of your regular routine. So maybe there's churro vendors that I'm unaware of.
We need to check with Mike Monroe to see if the famed chili queens in the 1890s had churros on their carts.
But Tom was San Antonio to the bone, by the way.
Yeah,
he has lived his entire life in San Antonio, from birth till now, and he agreed with me that churros are not a part of the San Antonio culture.
But my point is, if Chuck is basing his beliefs on San Antonio culinary culture on the media room, where did he get churros? Like, why churros? Why not like dry hamburger? They got the dry hamburger.
Spell this out.
How? Because why not like a salad without dressing? Because that's where they got the salad with no dressing. Or last night it was tacos with no condiments. Like where's that? Why churros?
Do I have to spell this out? Because it's a dirty joke. Because of the churro thing. The Charles Barkley churro joke. The pantomime gesture. You can't do that pantomime gesture with dry hamburgers. I think you do.
I have no idea.
I think you do.
You're disgusting.
Don't drag this podcast into the gutter. Anyway, that's the.
We started from the gutter. We're still here.
I'm eager, Spurs Nation. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on whether churros are San Antonian or not. I don't think they are. What is San Antonian, unfortunately, is lots of NBA basketball losses in the 23-24 season, and we can get back to some of those.
Let's talk about Victor. Let's do it. We're going to have to rip the Band-Aid off. Talk about Victor.
He's not been bad, but he's sort of hitting a rookie wall maybe, playing a lot more games in a shorter amount of time than he's played ever. And, right now he's not the rookie of the year. This is a ridiculous overreaction to 13 games, but if the season was 13 games long, he's probably not your rookie of the year, right?
Yeah, I agree.
It's Chet right now. Chet's really shooting the ball a lot better. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Even at the end of the year, we knew it was going to be a tight race between these two guys, right? And right now, Chet's just shooting the ball a lot better than Victor is, whether it's in the paint, or from the 3-point, especially from the 3-point line. And I think that's going to be the difference.
Let me read you
more at the end of the year.
Let me read you some statistics for Victor Wembanyama, just some raw statistics. We'll just get those out there. Some of them are good, some of them not so good. 18.6 points per game. That's good for a 19-year-old kid in the NBA, right? 9
Robert, your age, you're doing pretty well.
9.1 rebounds. That's pretty good. 2.6 blocks, which is way up there in the rankings. He had 8 of them against Memphis, so that's good. Then you get down to shooting 42.4% overall, and 26.9% from 3-point range, while taking almost 6 a game. Like that's not a small sample size. So the shooting numbers have been woeful. They have, and are we gonna? I'm okay saying he's 19 years old and has to figure this out. That's fine. I don't think he's going to be a 42% shooter for his entire career. But right now it's a little rough.
Yeah,
it does
33% from mid-range. I think that's last among the players that have at least 50 shots from that. I've
got them broken down here. I've got the stats up on NBA.com. at the rim, less than 5 feet from the rim, he's pretty unstoppable. He's shooting 73% from there. But do you want to guess what other range is his second best percentage? From 30 to 34 feet, he's shooting 50%.
Wow. He should shoot more from there.
That's one of two. But he's taking, outside of the paint shots, he's taking the most from 25 to 29 feet. So that's basically 3-pointers. That's 25.8%. If he steps in just a little from that, 20 to 24 feet, 25%. 15 to 19, 34.6%. 10 to 14, 40.7%. Here's a weird one. Just outside of 5 feet, so 5 to 9%, he's shooting 5 to 9 feet from the basket. He's shooting 31%. Like, none of those numbers are very good.
So it does bring up an interesting point about just how quickly, I guess the criticisms of a team or a system or a season can change, because it wasn't that long ago where the number one complaint that fans had about this Spurs season is they should throw Victor the ball more and run more through him, and the teammates aren't finding him enough, and too many other guys are taking shots. Like, now it's almost like the opposite. He's taken too many. Yeah. And you cannot say it. You were right the first week of the season, the first couple of weeks of the season, is they're missing this guy. They should be feeding the ball to him more. Like, that was a valid criticism early in the season. It's absolutely not anymore. Like, it's almost like they need to go away from him a little bit, or he's forcing too much. And
I think you can quibble with how you're getting him the ball and where.
You can, but there's also plays like, I think I was sitting up on the platform last night with my co-host here, Jeff McDonald. I think it was the first play of a quarter. It was the first play of a timeout. It was either the second quarter or maybe even the third. I think it was the second, where Pop had drawn up a play that was run to perfection. That basically got Victor a shot at the rim off a lob to start a quarter. And he just sort of missed it. Like, he fumbled the ball out of bounds. And the next trip up the court, and you saw Pop's kind of head fall. He doesn't show a lot of emotion in moments like that, but it was just clear dejection. Like, they'd run this play perfectly, and Victor didn't finish it. And then it was either the next possession or the one after that, Victor pulled up from like 30 feet and missed a 3-pointer. And it's just, those are just examples of, he's a 19-year-old player who's going to make mistakes like that, and he's not really as automatic as some people think he should be right away. And I think that's totally understandable. But the answer isn't as simple as just dump the ball to Victor all the time.
Right. I also don't feel great about just dissecting a 19-year-old kid right now, 13 games into the season, but that's what we're going to do. I mean, that's where we are.
When does I guess it also leads to the question, when does the observation phase end and they start talking?
I think that's over.
Yeah.
I think that was always more coach speak than totally true. I think that in broad strokes, Pop might have been telling the truth in that he's not going to micromanage every possession. But I don't think it ever was just, I'm going to watch him and let him do whatever the heck he wants. And you see that, Jeff has noted this, throughout a game. There's lots of coaching moments there with Pop and Victor, and with Pop and everybody.
Right. But he's still allowed to get away with stuff no one else could.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe the shot selection has to be ironed out at some point. Or is it
okay, flip side, I'm not sure there's ever going to be a time when Pop lays down the law with him like he would have with Tony Parker or Manu Ginobili or whatever. I think the times have just changed, and Victor's a different kind of player where I don't. Maybe I'm wrong.
What you might
see open to the group. I don't think he's ever going to say, Victor, you cannot shoot this 3-pointer.
Well, what you might see is a lot of coaching behind the scenes, and we won't see it, but Victor might see it. Coaching behind the scenes, film sessions. Hey, we really don't want this shot right here for this reason and that reason.
Right.
And over time and with the experience and with learning the league, maybe that will get coached out of him. I think that's what you'll see. He probably won't be benched the next time he takes a 35-footer with 20 seconds on the shot clock. That's true.
Probably going to make that one, though, according to the stats.
According to the stats, you're right.
Yeah.
One thing to remember is if you're looking at like the next best phenom to come into the league, it was LeBron James. And his rookie year, he shot 41.7% from the field and 29% from three. Just for a moment of levity and like if you're saying, oh, Victor's a bust because he can't shoot or whatever, most people that are panicking, I don't think that's not going to be the case. He's going to keep improving.
Yeah, those early LeBron months were pretty rough. I mean, they were just like Victor. There were games where you're like, oh my gosh, he's going crazy and he's amazing. And then there were games where he couldn't hit the broadside of the barn. Kevin Durant was the same way in Seattle at the time. So, you know, there's precedent for this. I don't think anybody should be panicking. Like the Spurs made the right, like I'm going to go, you know, have the hot take that everyone is going to like, you know, don't aggregate this, but the Spurs made the right pick at number one. I will go on the record and say that right now.
Kevin Durant had worse
really
stats
bold.
and a worse record through this amount of time than Victor did. I think he started, I don't have it in front of me, but like 2-18 or something like that. The Supersonics that year started miserably.
Yeah, number one
Kevin
don't
Durant.
usually join good teams or teams ready to win.
And Durant was number 2, I believe.
And he was number 2. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Greg Oden was taken ahead of him. The other topic that the fans of the local Cagers love to talk about these days is the 2023-2024 grand experiment that Greg Popovich called it. Jeremy Sohan at the point. Do we need to do this again?
It's tangentially related to the
I think it's tangentially related.
Whatever. I'm having a head cold day, so sorry.
You need a
That affects your
good cup
grammar.
of coffee or soda and a churro. That'll
I was going to go for whiskey. But I guess it's too early in the morning for that. It's related to the Victor discussion though, because that's, you know, he doesn't play all his minutes with Jeremy at the point, but with that starting unit and especially with Devin Vassell out, like the spacing is awful. So when you say, can you draw something up to get Victor like an easy look at the rim? Well, no, because there's no spacing with that unit. You know, the opposing team can just sort of pack the paint and not let you do that. And someone
Here's the
has to make
thing.
a three, and they don't have one. So the two are kind of related.
Here's the thing, though. Does starting any other point guard improve that spacing?
No, it does not.
Probably not. That's the other issue, and I guess it's completely fair to question the makeup of the roster. Could the Spurs have gone after a more traditional point guard in the offseason? I don't think you want to spend like Chris Paul never made any type of sense. No expensive veteran that doesn't fit the timeline. Like the Spurs weren't supposed to win this year. It wasn't about this year. But I will listen to and I will entertain the idea that maybe you just find some competent Trey Jones-ish type player to run some of those point guard minutes. Like that's fine. But with the roster they have, I don't see how the Jeremy Sohan experiment, which is not going smoothly, like that, I think that's a fair way to put it. I don't think that there's a vastly superior option to that in which the Spurs record is better than it is now. You know what I mean? Like if they'd been playing Devontae Graham more minutes, Trey Jones has been hurt. I don't think there's any like magic bullet on this roster that would have you believe that, oh, they'd be playing better now if they weren't playing Jeremy Sohan at the point. Is that fair?
The Trey Jones injury hurt a little bit too. I mean, if you look at the splits, they have been better when Trey's been on the floor than Jeremy. So I think when you go back to what some of the fans looking at the Greg Popovich comment where they're trying to win this season, and then you look at this experiment and you say, well, maybe they're not because they're trying this experiment instead of trying to win. because they are inherently better when Trey's at the point. I mean, there's no stat you can find that doesn't show that they're better when Trey's on the floor. But
I can find one on Saturday night against Memphis. Plus minus, and a single game plus minus can be fluky. Plus minus against
Can
Memphis.
be fluky.
The Spurs were -3 with Jeremy Sohan on the court. They were -18 with Trey Jones on the court.
He's coming off
one fluky thing. Offensive net rating with Trey Jones on the court, it's like 115 with
Sure.
But
But
on the court, it's like 99, which is the worst.
Sure.
That Memphis game, he's coming off the three games off with a hamstring injury, and that hamstring's probably not right yet.
Sure. But
Okay.
how many minutes are you going to play Trey Jones? Isn't he averaging like 28 minutes a night?
Somewhere in
The
there,
only reason we're discussing this is because Trey Jones doesn't start. You're still not.
But
If you start Trey Jones, he's going to play a few minutes more. Like you're still going to have those non-Trey Jones minutes. It's not an either or thing, and that's my problem with this whole discussion. Is it's too black and white. It's too if you're not playing Jeremy Sohan, you're playing Trey Jones. Trey Jones is already leading the offense for more than half the game every single night, and there's not many more minutes for him to play.
mm-hmm.
So the debate is not Jeremy Sohan versus Trey Jones. It's Jeremy Sohan versus like Blake Wesley, or name another guy who could get those other point guard minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody has to get the non-Trey Jones point guard minutes. And I'm not defending the experiment. I think if you're putting odds on it right now, I think the odds are Jeremy Sohan might not end up being a long-term NBA point guard. But I don't think that they're wasting as much time as it seems like they're wasting trying it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand what you mean. I'm just playing devil's advocate a little bit because I think that's what the most fans out there, they look at it and that's what they see and that's what they yell at their TV about.
And that's what I'm yelling at them about now. Is that we're arguing over maybe 5 minutes a night. Because does anybody have the stats up? How many minutes is Trey Jones averaging a game?
I can get him, but I'll get him. But I just wanted to point. Did you just go earnest on us with the note of it?
Yeah, I did. Oh, I thought you meant EARNEST,
No,
but you're talking about Ernest Goes to Camp.
Yeah, Ernest goes to camp. Ernest,
You know what I
goes
mean?
to-
Vern.
yeah,
Where's Vern?
Ernest goes to podcasting school.
Trey Jones is at 25.1 minutes a night. Last year, when he started the 65 games, he was at 29.2. So we're arguing it's really 4.1 minutes a night is what you're probably looking at.
Yes.
But
And those 4 minutes could be really important. I will give it to the people who are criticizing this. Those 4 to 5 minutes could make all the difference in the world. But really, we're not arguing about, I just want to make it clear, we're not arguing about 30 minutes a night. We're arguing about 4. We're arguing about 5. Because every minute that Trey Jones is on the court for those 24 minutes, and that number might be a little bit higher if like he was slow to come back from the injury, and I think he played less or fewer minutes in his first game back. If he averages 28, like what are we really arguing about here? He's the point guard every minute he's on the floor. And I think that the minutes where he's playing with Jeremy Sohan look pretty good. Like I think they play well together.
Yeah.
I think that improves Jeremy's game.
Trey talked about that last night. Yeah, he's the primary ball handler. But, if it's a miss, Jeremy's pushing it up the court,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Did we cut Jeff off there at some point?
No, I'm here.
Oh, I thought you were trying to make some kind of trenchant point there.
No, I was actually going more for a ribald joke. So it's good that you cut me off.
Okay. But I think to kind of tie a bow on the Sohan discussion, I'm not defending it. I am not saying this is a brilliant move. I'm not saying this is the right move. I'm just not quite ready to say it's a disaster and that it's costing the development of Victor Wembanyama and it's tanking the Spurs season, blah, blah, blah.
And that there's an alternative that makes it all better. Yeah.
Well, it's like as Nick mentioned earlier, and I've written about in the newspaper, and we brought this up with Pop a couple times. Like, he's the one who set these expectations on the first day of training camp when he said, what previous seasons were about learning, this season is going to be about winning. And they're not winning. So it's fair to question his methods for trying to win. And I think because Jeremy Sohan has not been effective as a point guard yet, because that's been so up and down and probably more down than up, I think it's a perfectly valid question to ask. Like, are they committed to this? Should they keep doing it? That's fine. I just don't think that it's so black and white that if they stop doing it, they're all of a sudden going to start winning again. I just don't see that. And I think it's as Jeff has written and talked about on this podcast, this is a good year to experiment. I think the mistake was Pop declaring on day one that this season is going to be about winning, because it hasn't been yet. And maybe it will be. I asked him the other night, what was his quote? He said, that was the hope, and it still is. And maybe we're only 13 games into the year, 14 games into the year. They still could win more than they did last year. We just haven't seen it yet.
Well, I heard they were tanking, though, for whoever is in the draft this year. I don't even know.
Ron Holland?
That's the guy from The Offspring.
Oh, yeah. They're not tanking. They're not. That is the difference between last year and this year.
Can we define tanking for the viewers at home?
Losing on purpose.
So is playing purposefully inefficient lineups, that's not tanking?
It's experiment.
It's experiment. They are hoping to win every night. Not only, and I should say, last year, the players on the court were hoping to win every night. I think the difference is this year the organization would like to win some games. Last year, the organization was fine with the players playing hard and the coaching staff coaching to win and them just not being good enough to win. That was all part of the plan. That's how tanking happens. But let the players play hard, let the coaches coach hard, and set everything up where you're just not good enough to win. This year, the players are playing hard, the coaches are coaching hard. They'd like to win, and they're not, because they keep blowing double-digit leads. We need to get Paul Garcia on here for the official stats, but it's just mind-boggling to see. I think there's something like 1-6 when they trail by 10 points or more during a game, and they're 1-6 when they lead by like 15 points or more during the game. They've won as many games when leading by 15 points as they have when trailing by 15 points, because they had the huge comeback at Phoenix. But they're trying to win, man. I firmly believe that. Now, they're not going all out trying to win every game. Like they're fine experimenting during this, but the goal every night is to win.
So it's all about the goal, the intent.
I think so. I think that intent is a huge part of the definition of tanking, don't you?
Yeah, sure.
Isn't tanking by definition about your intent?
Yeah, but it seems a fine it just seems a fine line sometimes.
And by intent, I mean the intent of the organization, not the intent of the individual players who always play to win.
Yeah.
So by that definition,
it's fun. I agree with you. I'm also just sort of playing devil's advocate, but it's also kind of funny to be like, we really want to win, but we're going to play these lineups that we know aren't going to work. But I swear, I promise, we're trying to win. But
I don't see again. I don't necessarily think that they put it that way. That might be how it looks, but I don't think they're playing lineups that they don't know won't work. I think it's more lineups that they know need to improve, and this is the way to improve them.
Or see if they work. And if you lose games in the process, so be it.
Yes. It's a very subtle thing, and I completely understand people who are frustrated with it. Last year, who were like the vets last year that played that never were going to be a part of the future? You covered all those games after I had sort of tuned out. What's that?
Kata Bates.
Yeah.
KBD.
Devontae Graham was playing a lot late. You had your Mamus. You had Julian Champagne's playing again. But the point was, some of those lineups you put out there knowing, I mean, those weren't, the lineups featuring KBD were not, hey, maybe he can be something. Hey, we're trying something out that could be useful in 2025. It was, we're going to let KBD go out there, good soldier, good player, good guy, let him play hard. We have no future with this guy. We have no intent of re-signing him. We're probably going to lose by running everything through him, and that's fine. I would hope that people could see the difference between that and, hey, we're going to experiment with Jeremy Sohan guarding the other team's best player, or in the case of the Los Angeles Clippers, guarding like all four of the other team's best players while learning to play a position he's never played before. Not because we're trying to lose this game, but we're trying to see if anything's there. And it might not work out great, but this could pay off for us down the road. Do you see how that's a different
I do. It's sort of like
mentality than throwing KBD out there and running everything through him for 20
It's sort of like we really do want to win this game, but we just kind of want to see what Trey Jones looks like at center.
Right. Well, that's ridiculous, but yes.
All right, you want to end on this? On a positive note. We kind of we talked about Victor shooting percentages. Do you want to know who is the best shooter on the team in terms of field goal percentage? The very best.
Charlie Bassey.
Yes.
How did I know that? We did not plan this beforehand. I was
Charlie Bassey is shooting a sizzling 71% from the field. I think he needs to take more shots.
Wait, 71% from the field?
Yes.
All ranges?
Well, yeah, all ranges because he only takes shots within 2 feet.
They should run the offense through him. That is a positive note.
Him down. I'll tell you what's bringing him down because it could be more. What's bringing him down is he was 0 for 1 from the 3-point range.
Was that like a last second heave? Or
Probably.
Did he actually attempt
Probably.
Yeah.
But on 2-pointers, Charlie Bassey, pride of St. Anthony, is shooting 73.3% on 2-point field goal shots.
That is a feel good stat for this.
Why are they not starting him?
Run isolation plays for Osman. Just let him clear out and let him go to work.
Jeff, since this is your job now, do you want to tell people how they can read more about Charlie Bassey or get more?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, you could. What's the name? The expressnews.com. That's the website, and you can also. I think you could subscribe there if you would like. The website printed out and thrown on your front porch every day. You can subscribe there for that service, or you could just read it on your laptop or your phone or the app. You could subscribe. This is more of a digital thing, but you could subscribe to the Spurs Nation newsletter, which I think is back to being a newsletter.
I was about to ask you that very question. Is it the newsletter again?
It's back to being a newsletter for now. But those are all ways that you can read the great coverage that Tom Orsborn and I provide, and also some finger columns.
Also some finger columns. I do my best. That's all that anyone can ask for. Sometimes I experiment. Sometimes the experiment doesn't work.
But your intent is always to be great.
My intent has never been to tank a column that you're aware of.
It just sort of
if it was, what would be the point of tanking a column? What would be the point of that? Is there any reward for me to write a bad column? Would intentionally taking a column generate more hits for our website than trying to be good?
I mean, maybe. It depends on how you tank it.
Maybe. Okay. Maybe I have a new approach now as a result of this podcast. We'll see. You'll have to tune in. Keep clicking on the website. Keep buying the Dead Tree Edition and see if you can guess my intent or the intent of my great coworkers here. Until then, we will try to take care of each other. You take care of each other and keep it real.
Go get those churros.